All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, only seen here out of Tin Mirror Studios in Kings Park, Long Island, and straight across the internet, who used to be next to me, my friend, my partner, Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm hanging in. It's been quite a day off. Very exciting. Very eventful.
That's it?
Well, what did you want?
Well, no, we were talking about. I honestly, really, dude. So since we're on air, I got to ask you, how long is the hair now? It's looking long.
It's very long. It's very long, and it's a challenge. You told me to put it up in a man bun. I've been told that by multiple people because I work security nowadays. So I got to take all this hair and kind of try to bury it up here.
Can we put a poll? Would you accept a poll if I put a poll up? Does Jimmy wear a man bun or not? Would you accept that poll?
No. You know me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't want to do a man bun. So for the meantime, it's put it in a ponytail and jam it up there, and I don't have long hair. Can I help you, sir?
And away we go. Real quick, Jimmy. I want to recognize the passing of Rey Mysterio Sr. I caught that right before we were setting up in studio, so I'm sorry for the late news.
No.
So rest in peace, Rey Mysterio Sr.
Yeah, right.
Holidays are here, my friend. What are your plans?
I'm working. What are yours?
That's it? You're working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day?
What do you want? I mean, if you want to know what I think about the holidays, I don't know. You got 3 weeks. I'm working Christmas Eve. I'm working Christmas. I'm working New Year's Eve, and I'm working New Year's.
Wow.
So I'm working.
Life of a working man.
It is what it is. I mean, who's the dude who said I'm proud to be an American? I'm still proud to be an American. I ain't bitching. That's just my schedule.
Let me ask you this question, dude. So I know you've grown up on both sides of religion and stuff. Has the holidays lost its oomph to Jimmy Pharaoh?
Well, I mean, if you could look, and I think it's the same for every generation, as each one advances in years, you go from a child to, midlife to old life. In our day, when we were kids, it was an absolute joy, the holidays, even though I was raised in a Jewish household that I didn't really get much as far as presents. There was always at least a friend that I had that had the Christmas tree. One thing I will always give my parents credit for, we used to go on rides together as a family to look at the Christmas lights during holiday season. And there were a lot of them, man. Back when we were kids, every house almost seemed to have one. And they were all different. And they were all beautiful. And to a young 10-year-old kid, great time. Snow, loved it. Didn't have to drive in it yet. It usually meant school was off if it snowed. I loved snow. I loved the holiday. I loved the holidays.
It's so funny for me. It was like you grow up and you're all excited and you get these gifts. Yeah. And then as you get older and maybe you get married and maybe you have some kids and you see Christmas through their eyes and it's still very exciting. Yeah. And now it's like, I got to be honest with you, dude. It's like, whatever. It's just another day. Just another day. I mean, again, for observers such as you and I,
right?
We are observing the birth of Christ, and that should not be not recognized.
Then there's that whole other thing that I've looked into where his birthday is it could very possibly be in October. Don't get me started on the subject of
what are you the Grinch? What is that all about, buddy?
No, that's not being the Grinch. It's actually studies out there that if you look at the real time frames and the numbers and stuff like that he was probably born in October. It's an argument. I'm not saying I agree with it. All I know is I've read about it. So I'm like, okay, so when was his birthday? Does it really matter? Or does the message matter? The message is what matters.
All right. Well, so at the end of the day, here's a message for you. Again, I want to see how smart you are. All right.
Oh, I'm not smart. Stop it. Go ahead.
So I was thinking about the holidays and how they could be depressing for many people. What do you think the rate of suicide increases during the holiday season?
I'm not sure if I believe that either. To tell you the truth, I mean,
I'm asking you a question. Stop using the script, please.
No, I'm not. First of all, I'm still. Oh, I have just read about this misconception about suicide rates, as you mentioned that.
Right.
I don't even know if where do they get the study from in the first place? Where does the study come
No.
from?
On an interesting fact, you always hear that people get depressed during the holiday season, they lose
Yes.
family, blah blah blah.
Yes.
And I actually looked up, and it's a misconception. It's actually the suicide rate goes down
Okay.
at Christmas time, which is good to hear, by the way.
Well, you better explain why. What do you got to back that?
Well, they're saying that people are around more family, they don't feel so alone.
Okay. All
A
right. I can
study
see
from
that.
the CDC found that December consistently has one of the lowest suicide rates of the year. Factors
Okay.
like increased social connections during the holidays may play a protective role for some individuals. That said, the holiday season can be emotionally challenging for people dealing with grief, loneliness, financial stress, and mental health. All which I'm suffering from right now, Jimmy. I gotta
Right.
be honest with you.
Right. You know what? I've suffered from it many times in my life. Mike, you know how alone I've been. All right. We don't have to really, please, let's not get into it too far. But as far as family and everything like that, the holidays for me have been a lot more torturous as I've gotten older than they were. That gleeful joy I described when
Yeah,
we were watching the
yeah.
Christmas lights and when we were kids. And Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was coming out. The Red-Nosed Reindeer was coming on, and you knew you better watch it because you couldn't see it again till when, Mike? Next year, right? Those things were exciting.
Well, if you
Those were
didn't know it, you're
exciting
just
things.
tuning in. You are listening to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. See it on the Monte The Pharaoh YouTube page, Monte The Pharaoh Facebook Live page. Hear us on iHeart, Spotify, Anchor, and the Monte The Pharaoh Twitch TV page.
We're
All
everywhere.
our audio is driven by the Believe Network. That's BLEAV. That's who distributes our work. So you could go to Believe, sign up. You could catch Monte The Pharaoh nonstop. And if you're lucky to live in New York, you could catch Monte The Pharaoh 3 times weekly on New York cable, where you'll see our special guest in the reduced version.
Reduced.
I'm very excited to have her, by the way, and what a wonderful lady that I really hit her with very late notice, and she was willing to join us, and I want to welcome her, Kathie Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Kathie. How are you?
Good, guys. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Lovely.
Well, I'm not doing great now because I see a Philadelphia Eagles shirt on you, but that's okay. We're really not that enemies, you know?
Hey, it's my team.
Hey, you're doing a hell of a lot better than our team in green in New York. I'll tell you that. I kind of like the Eagles, Mike. What's your problem with the Eagles?
I really don't have a problem with the Eagles, Jimmy. It's as a Jet fan, the Eagles are not our enemies, right?
No, not at all. And they beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I kind of like them. Yeah, I kind of like them. I do. Kathie, thank you for coming on. Obviously, I was looking up some stuff about you, and I'm kind of blown away by there's I didn't find an Wow, you think there's Mike? Do we need to research further before we ask any further questions?
It's too late now, Jimmy. You're gonna have to keep asking questions. We'll have to dig for dirt.
I'm just gonna muster through it, Ralph. I'm gonna muster through it. Can you tell us how you got started with pro wrestling in general? I mean, how does this even begin with you with pro wrestling?
Okay, when I was young, my grandfather and uncle had a lawn care service, and they used to mow Buddy Rogers' lawn.
Wow. Okay.
So continued, my uncle and grandfather, we'd always watch wrestling during the weekends. Then I joined a group out of Philadelphia called Tri-State Wrestling Alliance with Joel Goodhart. And, we'd always go to the shows and stuff. I was helping out at a gym that I trained at. That, of course, was many years ago, but anyhow. And a girl that would come in, she brought in Sherri, Martel, and Randy Savage. Before that, so we started talking and everything. But I had met Bret Hart and through a friend of mine. And, I got hooked on wrestling.
Now, were you hooked on wrestling before that, or is it that they were around you at this gym? I know you would go
No.
through Go So Good Art, but is that how you got more hooked into it?
Well, actually, one night I was at college. I went to Penn State for a year, and I was sitting in my room, in my dorm, watching TV, and I happened to turn on, I guess it was NWA at the time, and I'm watching Rock and Roll Express against Nikita and Ivan. So I'm like, okay, good looking guys in tight pants. Okay, let's watch.
That's a good answer.
Then the next matches I watched was Rick Steamboat and Dusty against Tully and Ole. And Ric Flair was there, Magnum TA. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. I'm going to watch this. And then when I came home from school, I ran into Joel and them. You know, we'd always get tickets for the Spectrum at the time. And I just started going to the shows and became friends with Sherri Martel. You know, and I worked, in the beginning, I worked the front door at ECW, you know, doing tickets and meeting guys like that and picking them up at the airport for Paul and different things. And
So was that post Todd Gordon right into Paul, or were you working with Todd Gordon too?
I worked with Todd Gordon too.
Okay.
What was it like when Randy Savage walks in the room? How was Randy when you're meeting him?
When I met him, because he knew I had become friends with Sherri. You know, very nice, very sweet. You know, I know people said they had problems with him, but I never did.
So let me ask you this. So of all these fights, because, you know, again, you have so many, from what I understand from speaking to people about you, you're very respected within the industry, and everybody speaks very highly of you. But clearly,
can I get names? Can I get some of those names? Because I need to talk to them.
Okay, well, I'll send you the list. I can actually post it on the show on the end. But obviously, probably your biggest friendship, and we saw it on Dark Side of the Ring, was with Sherri, the great Sherri Martel. You mentioned how you became friends with her. How did you become friends with her? How did you become so close to her?
Well, she came into the gym with Randy, and then WWF at the time was coming into Philadelphia for an afternoon show. So my friend who knew Bret Hart said, come up to the airport. Maybe somebody will need a ride. Well, Sherri saw me. She goes, "Hey, you still work at that gym?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You got tanning beds?" I said, "Yep." She goes, "Let's go." And that started literally 25 years of friendship.
So you again, when we saw you on Dark Side of the Ring, so Jimmy and I are just fans, right? We're not on the inside. We don't know much. Just happen to have a popular pro wrestling broadcast, right? So we ask these questions. But when we noticed on Dark Side of the Ring was how close you were. So I'm gonna ask you a question, which did not go over very well last week. So I'm going to attempt to do this again, and hopefully we get a different reaction.
Did you reword it, Mike?
Well, again, we'll try. I'll do my best.
Okay. She seems like a level-headed, sweet woman. So there's my disclaimer. Go ahead, Mike.
Getting from Dark Side of the Ring, Kathie, it seemed that you had a very, very close relationship with Sherri. At least the way that came across. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But considering Sherri's demise, obviously you're emotional over it because it's your friend and there's sadness and all these emotions. But considering what's been told about her demise, were you angry over the situation? Were you angry at your friend?
I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at basically the situation she had gotten herself into. And not, let me clarify that, not with that she was hooked on, she had a problem with medication. It was the people she was around.
Do you want to elaborate? Are we talking about her husband? Or are we talking
Her husband.
about her husband? Okay. At the present time, her was second husband, I believe, right?
I met one, two, third.
Third. So that, and correct me if I'm wrong, again, only understanding what I've read and what I've watched, that third husband was a wrestling fan who she ended up marrying. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
So I'm going to ask you to elaborate, if you can. How does she get involved with a wrestling fan? That, to me, that seemed odd when I read about that.
Okay, Sherri was the type of person that if you pay, if you go up, talk to her, she talked to anybody. And somehow, if I remember correctly, because it has been quite a while, he was training to be a wrestler. Where, I have no idea, but he was training to be a wrestler. And he had hurt his knees or something, and he couldn't continue. So then he was around the business a lot. And I love her to death. I always talk to her, but she did not have the best insight in men.
And we're talking about Robert Schrull, right? Is that the name?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm sorry I'm leaning this way. It kind of hurt my back, so I'm kind of like going like
no,
this.
it's all good. It sounds to me like you're telling us that Sherri was very, very trusting and sometimes didn't have the best judgment in character in certain bad people.
Correct.
Fair enough.
So, Kathie, I guess my question then would be, here's your friend. You have this really good relationship with her, and you start to see her go down this road. What kind of conversations would you have had with, or did you have with her, or did you feel uncomfortable discussing her relationship with her third husband, Robert Schrull?
Now, to be honest, as I said in The Dark Side, the night before she passed, she and I were on the phone together. And she says, I got some news, but I don't want to jinx it. And my comment was, are you dumping them?
Wow.
She went, soon.
Oh. Understood.
And there was times I'd be sitting there talking to her and I'd say, why? Why him? And to be honest, I think she was lonely because she wasn't on the road anymore. She didn't have the boys around her. And when I say that, it was like her brothers. And unfortunately, she picked him.
Does this mean, my next question was going to be, after WCW's run with her, there was so much more. I felt like there was so much. I consider Sherri Martel the greatest ever at what she did. I felt like she was one of a kind. She could talk. She could take bumps. She could do everything. She was the greatest villainess I personally have ever seen. I just felt that she was that original and that special. After WCW, why did we never see her again? Is it because of the things we're talking about previously here? I mean, did she not want to get back with her brothers? I mean, what was stopping her? What happened at the end? And what kind of conversations were you having with her at this point? Were your alarms going off? I mean, as her best friend, they must have been. You must have been thinking to yourself, oh my God, how do I get through? What were your feelings on that period there at the end where to the fans she's not there, but why is she not there?
Well, after WCW, that's one part of Dark Side was wrong.
Okay.
And please, I love Jim Cornette to death, but
okay,
it was after WCW. Somehow she met this guy.
Right.
And hooked up with him. She was living in Louisville and working with this guy doing independent shows. And he actually offered her that it was going to be a great business. They were going to have a lot of money, and she was just working with him. And then that's how she met Robert again. And I know I got her booked on some conventions and some other shows and stuff, but she was happy to be home to take care of her mom. And, there was only so much I could say as a friend.
Well, let me ask you this.
I mean, we were on the phone at least once or twice a week.
Well, here's a hard question. Then, did you have the opportunity to tell Mr. Schul how you felt about him?
No.
Sorry to stay on the dark side. We'll be getting off in a minute, but here's a question for you, and maybe you could clarify for me. As a watcher and as a fan, it seemed like her first husband, Leroy Gonzalez, in that dark side of the ring, still held this love for Sherri. Seemed like he was crazy mad in love with her. Am I accurate on that?
I'm pretty sure he was.
Oh.
But it hurt him. It hurt him when she decided she wanted to get in wrestling and leave.
Did you ever get to meet Mr. Gonzalez?
I've spoken with him when I've been on the phone with Jared, her son. But I've never met Leroy in person.
Speaking of Jared, do you still in contact with him? Is he still with us? I don't know. I'm asking. He did not look well on the documentary. That's why I'm asking this question.
No, he's had a lot of medical issues. And like I said on Dark Side, he's never told me straight out that he had cancer. But I've worked in the medical field for like 41 years. So I can pick up on things. He still has never said to me he has cancer. He is still alive and kicking. And like he said, he doesn't want any sympathy. I think I got a text from him about a week or two ago.
During the holidays, do you reach out to a lot of people, a lot of your wrestling friends to see how they're doing? I imagine all the friends that you've built over these years, we know some of the travesties that we dealt with as fans here. Do you make sure you reach out to them during these holidays, make sure they're okay? Like a Jared, to make sure Jared's okay?
I reach out to Jared, Sherri's sister, Vicky. I'll drop notes to like Booker T, Stevie Ray, Bret. Matter of fact, upon hearing about Ray's uncle passing today, I sent him a text. And it's even worse because just a couple of weeks ago, he lost his dad.
Wow.
Happy holidays. Boy.
Unbelievable. Talk to me about Bret Hart. You mentioned that you became friends with Bret Hart. What kind of person is Bret Hart, and how did you build a relationship with Bret?
Just by a friend of his, we happened to know each other. And this young lady, her sister-in-law, I'm sorry, that's my cat, which I want to smack in about 2 seconds.
You'll be nice to that cat. I've got 3 cats, and they're all a pain in the ass.
Tell me about it. Um, Brett's a very intense person, a great guy. Um,
Kathie, is he crabby? I'm only asking as a fan because it seems like half the time he's mad at somebody. I'm just saying.
Jimmy, that's a great question, by the way. Thank
I
you.
can't help it, and she seems so honest. I gotta know, is he crabby? I
You know,
mean,
Kathie is quite honest. I got to give her a lot of credit. Thank you,
I
Kathie.
mean,
My God.
or is surly? Is surly a better word?
wow, I could get in trouble for this.
Oh, geez.
Don't worry. No one,
No,
no
no.
one watches us. Only
Would you
150,000 people in
stop
New
that,
York.
Michael? Stop lying. Stop lying. Oh, that's terrible. She's about to give a real
No,
answer.
Brett.
Let's have it.
To me, Brett
Yeah.
has never been anything but nice.
Okay.
I've seen how. I mean, sometimes fans can push the buttons a little, and he'll be like, "Okay, we're done."
Mike, we got off easy. He was nice to us.
Kind of. No, he was fine. He was
Compared
fine.
to William Shatner, he was the Pope.
No,
What are you talking about?
You ain't kidding, Jimmy. Yeah. I also heard that you have a very, very close relationship with Booker T. Is that accurate?
Yes.
How does
Yes.
that happen?
When Sherri was working with Stevie and Booker,
Yeah.
we were in Baltimore, and they come into the hotel, and I'm sitting there, and she's like, "Booker, Stevie, this is my sister. Makes her your sister."
Oh.
And from then on, he and Stevie were my family, and so Charmel and the kids.
Wow.
How's it felt watching Booker T turn into the level of wrestler he turned into? Boy, he really started modestly when you think about it. And look at the superstar he is today. Any thoughts on Booker T's ascension in the wrestling business?
Very, very proud of him. Very proud.
Tell me you did not just say that.
You just fell right in, Kathie, you just fell right into that. I got to ask you a question, though. When Harlem Heat does that angle on WCW, pretty much telling Sherri to get her act together or she's gone.
Oh, man.
What is the story, if you know, what is the story behind that? Is that because it felt like there was some truth behind it?
Yeah, she had problems, and she had she now I want to clarify. She took pain meds because of her back. Like everyone knows, you take too many, you become hooked. She liked weed. From what I understand, that day they turned around and Eric Bischoff told her that she was done. That was it.
Just
Really?
like that.
Wow.
Yep.
Just like that. Just like that.
So that's why they did the exit there.
Now, the one thing I thought was fantastic is when Sherri was inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame, she mentioned you, which I thought was great. You were in the audience at that point, I believe. What was that feeling like being in that whole event, and what was it like, and how were you treated?
I was treated incredibly nice. When everything was going down, I mean, when we're getting ready to go to the Hall of Fame, I'm sitting at my office and I get a phone call. Now, at this point, everybody I worked with knew I was around wrestling a lot. Except I get a phone call from Howard Finkel. And I'm like, hello? And I hear, Kathie, Howard Finkel, how are you, my dear? And I'm like, oh, I'm okay. What's up? You know, leading up to the Hall of Fame, I was always at my office at like 6 a.m. doing physicals. Let me clarify. working in a doctor's office. We did New Jersey State Trooper physicals every day for like 20 years at 6 a.m.
Wow.
So Sherri would call me and say, go over her speech with me. And then finally she said, well, I got to put something about you in here. I said, no, you don't. It's your time to shine. She's like, you've been around me for over 25 years. You know I have to mention you. So.
And then she did.
Yep.
All right, I got to ask you this. So you're a professional, you're working in a doctor's office, you're at a gym. Is there a point like when people are like, listen, I noticed you've been like hanging around like these big people or these wrestlers. You like, yeah, you kind of like shy. You know, remember back when we were younger with the old wrestling stuff? You like kind of like like when people ask Jimmy and I are like in my real life, if people come into my office, I have, some people I deal with, right? They'll say, what's your show about? And I'll be like, professional wrestling. Were you running into that same situation through those years?
Yeah, before professional wrestling became the mainstream coolness that it is today, we used to have to hide it the same way we did to admit we were Kiss fans in the 1970s. Were you approached like, what are you doing hanging out with these nerdy wrestlers? What are you, nerd?
Well, all I would hear was, it's fake, right?
Here we go.
Well, okay, I retired from the medical field, and now I teach driving school.
Jeez.
The easiest way to break the ice with some of the kids who are scared to death behind the wheel because they're 16 years old is I'm like, oh, I'm a huge football and pro wrestling fan.
There you go.
And amazingly, a lot of the kids are wrestling fans that, of course, they're like, oh, who's your favorite? Oh, John Cena. It figures.
You can't see him, huh? Okay.
But one time, and this was a while ago, I took a young man out driving. I knew he was nervous, so I'm like trying to break the ice with him. And I'm telling him about wrestling. He goes, oh, my grandfather was a pro wrestler. I'm like, oh, who's your grandfather? It was Gorilla Monsoon's grandson.
Oh man.
Wow.
That's weird.
And I said to him, I went, you're Sharon's son? He's like, yeah, you know my mom? I said, yeah, I knew your Uncle Joey. And he goes, well, I didn't know my Uncle Joey. I said, I know. He died 1 year, 3 months before you were born. And he just looked at me like, okay. And it was neat because I could see him relax and was a great driver. He actually went on to become a Navy SEAL.
So he parallel parked and everything. You passed him. Gotcha.
It's amazing, but getting back to Sherri, Sherri was that night at Hall of Fame. It was an incredible honor for her to say my name there, point out to me. And the funniest thing was getting on the bus to go back to the hotel. CM Punk, who I knew from Ring of Honor, walks by me and goes, props at Hall of Fame.
Kathie, how is CM Punk as a person? Does he get a bad rap?
I think he does. I mean, I remember I haven't seen him in many years, but when I first met him in Ring of Honor, young kid, we would sit, we would chat, we would talk. I hope I get to see him soon. I haven't seen him recently. I was always very proud to know him. He was a nice kid to me.
Another one where you must be blown away at his success. This is the guy who left the WWE, and for all the time he was gone, they still kept chanting his name. I can't think of another wrestler who's ever had that accolade.
No.
Years and years and years, they still chanted his name. You got to be blown away. He was just a kid in the beginning when you saw him. I mean, this is ridiculous, right?
Yep. I think it's trying to think of the word. It just proves to people how good he is.
Here's the toughest question of the night, Kathie. It's on right now, and I'm going to see, because I know your answer. I can feel it. Eagles are playing in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, no.
But at the exact same time, WrestleMania 43 is on. And you can only watch one.
Uh-oh.
Where are you going?
Oh, no. That's not fair.
Well, wait a minute. WrestleMania is in March.
No. These are Monty rules, Kathie. Monty rules.
We're playing in Fantasyland, Kathie. You're stuck between a choice between the Eagles and WrestleMania. That's not fair. Go ahead. Give it a shot, Kathie. Who are you picking?
I'm going to have to say the Eagles.
I knew it.
I have to.
Good for her, because, Mike, if the Jets ever get to a Super Bowl, of course, we'll be pushing up daisies at that point.
Jimmy, the reality is, as much as we love wrestling, football, baseball, it all overrides wrestling, as unfortunate as that may sound, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, though, Mike. To be fair, I'm gonna watch WrestleMania over the NBA Finals. So there, how you like them apples?
That's unless the Knicks are in it, you may not be.
No, I'm still skipping it. How's that sound?
So, Kathie, here's another one. So you had mentioned to me that you reached out to Eric Sims to see, because we don't know each other, and I reached out to you on the blind. Eric, who's a great friend of the show, and I'm not trying to put you either way, also has a reputation of many people do not like Eric for whatever reason. We like Eric. What? How did you meet Eric Sims? And was your first meeting like? Did you want to throw up in a bucket?
Did he try to sell you anything? Throw up in a bucket. Wow. Go ahead. Good luck there.
Okay. Oh God, you guys are killing me tonight. When I first met Eric, I was like, okay.
Wait a minute. What does that mean?
I know what it means. Oi. It means oi.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Eric knows what oi means too. Oi means, man, get a load of this guy. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh my God.
But over all the many years I've known Eric, I have become friends with him.
Yeah.
And I do like him.
Yeah.
That's why when you contacted me, I was like, okay, is this legit? You know? And you guys know Tommy Fiera, right?
Yeah, we do. Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I asked Tommy, I said, he says, oh, ask Garrett. Happened to be going to a convention in Philly on Saturday, and Eric was there. Walks over, gives me a hug, and I went, do you know the guys from Monte The Pharaoh? He goes, yeah, they're very good friends. I went, okay, thank you. He went, whoa, no, get back here. And he's like, no, you'll have a good time. He goes, I get on there a lot, so it's like, okay.
All right, but now be honest. Sherri hated Eric, didn't she?
What was that?
Sherri hated Eric, didn't she?
Wow, really?
She must have been like, Kathie, don't talk to Eric.
She's laughing. I don't know.
I don't think she really hated him.
Hate is a hard word. I don't mean hate. Eric is hard to hate, but high dislike.
Was dislike a possibility?
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Mike,
right.
I think we have our answer, Mike.
Wait a minute, hold on. I have one more question. Did Eric try to ever massage either your feet or
no.
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 Oh my God.
Kathie, you rock, man. You are a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
Thank God. Thank God.
Fantastic.
Well, I have to tell you guys, when you said about WrestleMania or Eagles.
Yeah.
Super Bowl was in Vegas. Very good friend of mine is an NFL analyst, so he was out there for Super Bowl. And he knows I'm a big wrestling fan. He's not. He got his picture taken with Seth Rollins. with the belt and everything. He says he can't wait to be in Philly for WrestleMania 40. So I'm like, where did you see him at? And he told me. And then Rey Mysterio was there. And he knows I know I'm very good friends with Ray. And he walks over and he's talking to him. And he says, oh, by the way, you're good friends with Kathie Fitzpatrick. And Ray just went, how do you know Kathie? He goes, well, we're very close. And he went, really? And I was like, thanks, Ray. Just burned me on that one, didn't you? And Brian was like, he goes, Ray called like his wife over, a couple of the guys. He goes, oh, he knows Kathie. You know. So I honestly say, excuse me, all these years I've been around the wrestling, I've been very blessed to meet a lot of people and become friends with a lot of people.
You have, no doubt. It is quite the track record. But Mike, I'm gonna ad lib a little bit since we have an Eagles fan here.
Sure.
I'm going to pull a page out of my partner's partially part of his sports mind. Okay, and I'm going to ask you this question. You've got another Super Bowl. Somehow you get there. Let's go back though. Let's say it's years back. And you have a choice between Donovan McNabb or Nick Foles. Who are you picking to be your quarterback for that game?
Wow.
Because I think that Donovan McNabb was absolutely amazing, and it just didn't work out in the end for him, unfortunately. But all of a sudden, Nick Foles comes out of nowhere and is able to take a team to a championship. So I ask you, who would you be picking for that Super Bowl if you had one more crack back in the day? Are you taking McNabb or are you taking Foles?
McNabb.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's my answer. That's my answer too. That's my answer too.
Kathie, how does it? Would I be wrong to categorize you as one of the behind-the-scene unsung heroes in pro wrestling? Because the way I look at it, you are. Like, you have wrestling people that are in the forefront, and then you have all these other people behind the scenes that were so important to the industry. And I feel you're that type. You're that one of those type of people. What are your thoughts?
Well, I really appreciate you saying unsung hero. I was very lucky to be able to work with, in the beginning, with Joel Goodhart and Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. Just doing the tickets, helping out at the shows when at that point, they didn't need a doctor, so I was the medic. Literally throwing a Band-Aid on, something like that. Then working with Eddie Gilbert in Eastern Championship Wrestling. And working with Todd and Paul in Extreme. Paul has an incredible mind for the business. Incredible mind. I appreciate saying that, I was always proud to be around the guys. One guy who I've seen go from a young kid coming into the shows, Blue Meanie, to where he is today. I never considered myself an unsung hero. I was just lucky to be in spots at the right time.
Well, you are an unsung hero, and as a fan, we thank you for what you've lent towards the industry. Before I give you something called the Pharaoh's final question, because it's an unscripted question, I do have a personal question for you. Obviously, you said earlier that Paul Heyman was, has a great mind for the industry. I think that was, if I'm quoting you. Be honest, though,
Yes.
when you first met him, did you feel the same way? Or is it something that has become rhetoric because of what has eventually happened? Or did you think back then, like, this dude's crazy?
This dude's crazy.
Yeah. Jimmy, the Pharaoh's final question, please.
Well, I also want to thank you, Kathie. You've been probably one of the realest guests we've ever had on. I really appreciate that. We've been doing this for a while. Um, I'm gonna ask you another question about Paul, because we have grown very fond of Todd Gordon. Personally, agreed, Mike. I mean,
Agreed, Jimmy. Agreed. Good
Todd's
question.
one of our favorite people, and I have nothing but respect for Todd. Something I couldn't shake, so just let me explain quickly. When we were at the big event recently, when I went up to New York for a few days, there was a line, as there should be. There was a line a mile long for Paul Heyman. And I found it very sad that being forced to sit at a table, at his own table, in front of this long, long line for Paul Heyman was Todd. Do you think, and Mike and I sometimes feel this way, so forgive us. It's just our personal feelings about the situation. But do you think at some point that Paul left Todd to basically just left him for dead, for lack of a better term? Maybe it's not well put on my part, but I just feel like Todd was just forgotten about. And Paul's gone on and well deserved. Paul's been great. Paul is great. But do you think at any point he would turn to Todd and be like, "Hey, let me find you a position, or let me help you, or let me do something I can to back whatever you are interested in currently"? Because without Todd Gordon, is there an ECW in the first place? Any thoughts on that? Could Paul have done more for Todd, or am I out of bounds?
No, I don't think you're out of bounds, but yeah, I'm sure Todd has his business
Right,
and a family.
right.
At that point, Paul didn't. Um, I think Paul could have maybe said, do you want to come and do something? But to be honest, I don't think Todd would have.
Why?
His business and his family.
That's fair enough. I've just always wondered why, like, it always felt that Paul left him in the rearview mirror, and I'm only speaking as a fan. So
Yeah,
that's
I
why I
understand.
asked.
No, there was times when we would be shooting promos to literally 3, 4 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I was never in them, but I had to drive everybody, so I had to stay there. And to see Paul work that way, I had an immense respect for him. I still do. Um, at the time um, when I was leaving ECW, I had went through a lot of things. Depression. My best friend, the guy I was dating, was killed in a car accident. And it took a lot out of me. Um, and it was just time that you know, people were saying a lot of stuff about me, and it just got a lot. And the guy I was dating was Joey Morella, Gorilla Monsoon's son.
Mm.
And I mean, Paul was there, but it was dealing with the depression that I just, and people are to be very honest, they wanted my job. So things were said and I left. I've made amends with people. New Jack and I became very good friends again after before he passed. Todd and I were fine. Taz and I, and anybody, you got to be on Taz's good side, But I couldn't make it up to the big event last time. I would have loved to met you guys in person.
Same here.
But
Same. Ditto.
it was,
Yep.
I really wanted to go up and just talk to Paul. But we email back and forth every so often. And I know I'm going to sit down one night and we're going to sit and chat and clear the air.
Wow. Kathie, I want to thank you for taking your Friday night with us. If you're going,
that's okay. It's snowing down here.
if you're going to events, I wish any fan out there, please reach out to Kathie Fitzpatrick. What she's done for the industry and what she's done for the wrestlers on an individual level cannot be stated well enough, at least by me. So, Kathie, first of all, I want to wish you a happy holidays. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you've done for wrestling, the wrestling fans, and the wrestlers. And thank you for being such a close friend to one of the greatest women wrestlers of all time, the great Sherri Martel. Thank you, Kathie.
Thank you. Can I give you guys a couple quick plugs?
Absolutely. Plug
Sure.
away.
February 8th, which happens to be Sherri's birthday. There's a small company down here in South Jersey called MAWA, MAWA. They're doing a Sherri Martel female battle royal. It's in Somerdale, New Jersey. If anybody's in the area, please come to it. Also, March 3rd in Philadelphia at the arena. TWA comes out again. Tri-State Wrestling Alliance with Joel Goodhart. It's one and done. There's going to be a, not wrestling con, a WrestleCon and a big show that night at the arena in Philly to honor the old TWA and all the wrestlers and fans.
Nice.
Well, everybody
So you guys can come down. Please come down.
Well, Jimmy's in Florida, but I think I'll make a trip for sure. Absolutely, because I'm in New York. I'm just a hop, skip it away. But the only problem is, Kathie, most wrestling fans hate me personally, so I'd have to probably hide behind you.
With Eric.
Wasn't ready for that.
No, that's
one.
double hatred right there, Kathie. I can't hang around Eric. Jimmy, I've been trying to reach you. Your camera went out, and I hate to say that on air, but I still need you to send us out. Kathie, thank you again. And
thank you so much.
I want to.
My camera went out.
Your camera is out, but you're going to have to reboot for the second show. And remind everybody, in literally 10 minutes, we've got ECW superstar Jason Knight in, and we've got a lot to talk about. So Kathie Fitzpatrick at 7:30, Jason Knight at 8:45. We're rocking it on a Friday night if it's snowing. So we'll see everybody 8:45. Jimmy, send us out.
Oh, I'll send this out. All right. You've been watching Monte and listening to the Pharaoh, and maybe I'll see you in a few minutes later.